Welcome to the News Hour. 3 months into his second term, President Trump is shaking up his national security team. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz has been ousted from his position. His use of an unclassified messaging platform caused an uproar starting in March, but he'll now be nominated to serve as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. And for the first time since Henry Kissinger 50 years ago, a Secretary of State will also serve as National Security Advisor. Marco Rubio will wear both hats for the time being. Following all of this is Nick Schifrin, who joins us now from the White House. So, Nick, what can you tell us about Mike Waltz's reassignment and also Secretary Rubio's?
This morning, two officials familiar with the situation told me that President Trump decided to initiate this shakeup and remove Mike Waltz, the former Green Beret turned Florida congressman as National Security Advisor, as well as Waltz's principal deputy, Alex Wong, who served in the Trump administration. But this afternoon, in a post on Truth Social, he named Secretary of State Marco Rubio to be the interim National Security Advisor after praising him this morning before the announcement.
When I have a problem, I call up Marco. He gets it solved.
But this morning, the people I talked to did not expect Waltz to be named ambassador to the United Nations, and they did not expect Rubio to be named interim National Security Advisor, nor apparently did Rubio's spokeswoman, Tammy Bruce.
Do you know how long he's going to be serving in both roles?
It is clear that I just heard this from you.
The two officials familiar with this situation tell me that President Trump soured on Waltz, most notably over what we now call Signalgate. That is when the National Security Advisor created a group of cabinet secretaries and their aides on the messaging app Signal to discuss policy on Yemen, and inadvertently added editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, who published the messages. And as an aside, Waltz was photographed using Signal just yesterday at a cabinet meeting. But the officials I spoke to, Amna, also told me that President Trump considered Waltz, quote, low energy, or at least not exhibiting the fighting spirit that the president would expect from his national security advisor when, for example, outside voices like Laura Loomer, the far-right activist, criticize Waltz and his staff, or during ongoing foreign policy debates where there's been disagreement over key challenges like Iran and Ukraine.
So, Nick, what do we know about what the impact of this shakeup could be, and also who might replace Mike Waltz?
Three former officials who have served on Trump's national security staff in the past tell me that they worry that this shakeup, when there were already vacancies on the National Security Council staff, could negatively affect policy and policy making. These officials argue it's only the National Security Council that has the power to convene the government, and there's no orderly way to make policy without the NSC gathering the agencies all together, debating and figuring out how to implement the president's policies. These officials acknowledge, Amna, as we've discussed, that President Trump does not necessarily like the orderly version of the National Security Council staff from the past. And I've been told about examples recently where various foreign officials are told different things depending on which cabinet secretary they're talking to. But the former officials that I talked to argue that, look, the NSC staff at lower levels has been working, has been coordinating across the interagency, and they worry this could affect that. As for the second part of the question, who could replace Mike Waltz, I talked to a half a dozen people about that today, Amna, and assuming that Secretary of State Marco Rubio does not remain in the job, all the people I spoke to put at the top of the list Steve Witkoff. That is the president's senior advisor leading policy across the world in terms of its diplomacy, but two sources tell me he does not want the job. Another option, Rick Grenell, a longtime Trump ally and former acting director of national intelligence. Another name told to me today, Michael Anton, the head of policy planning at the State Department. And finally, another name, retired General Keith Kellogg, currently special envoy to Ukraine. As we've discussed, Rubio is in the job temporarily for now, and officials I speak to say that he and Waltz actually have some unanimity when it comes to most of these policies, so that will continue. But Anna, this is the kind of shakeup that defined President Trump's first term, and by all accounts, he has been trying to avoid during his second term.
All right, Nick Schifrin reporting for us live from the White House tonight. Nick, thank you.